Good evening. Welcome tonight to the County Commissioner meeting for June 7th, 2022. At this time, I'll get Don Hill to do the invocation of the pledge.
Everybody please stand. Bow your head. Lord, we thank you for this day. Thank you for the opportunity to come together to do the work of Suwannee County, the work of the people, Lord. We pray, Lord, that you'll be with us and help guide our minds and our hearts as we make these decisions on behalf of the people. Lord, we pray for all those that are less fortunate than us that may want to be here that can't be here. There's things going on around this world that are out of our hands, but we know you've got your hands on them. We pray, Lord, that you'll bless us, guide us, forgive us our sins. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on to item number 1, approval of minutes for the May 17th, 2022 regular board meeting, the May 18th, 2022 professional engineering service tabulation meeting, and the May 24th, 2022 special call meeting. Is there any discussion or a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Land, second by Commissioner Stapleton. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Consent agenda. We're going to pull items number 11 and 12 for discussion. Is there any others? Seeing none, items 2 through 10 and items 13 through 15. Any discussion or a motion to approve? Motion by Commissioner Fleming,
Second.
second by Commissioner Hale. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 11. Greg Scott.
You can pull that to another meeting. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's not for discussion. We just,
Okay.
okay. Moving on to item number 12, authorization to purchase approximately 32 acres in O'Brien. This is something I've been working on for a good little while here. For those of you that don't know, this is next to the rodeo arena down at Brantford, or between O'Brien and Brantford. As most of you know, that we don't have, there's not a lot of county-owned property on our end of the county at this time. Most of it's owned by the town of Brantford. This is something that I've gotten support from the local community on that end of the county to, I'd like to try to get a covered arena on that end of the county like we have here in Live Oak, because this one stays booked most of the time, and this is for an economic development, if you will, for that end of the county. The appraisal came back at $364,000. Mr. Scott Ware, the owner of the property, was asking $451,000 for that piece of property. We negotiated back and forth, and so I gave some and he gave some, and Miss Annette and Miss Luana Gaylord were the realtors on that particular piece of property, and they gave half of their commission to make it work. So that's how we come to the figure of $400,000. So I just wanted to be open and transparent and have a discussion about it. If anybody had any questions, or the board has any questions.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Flynn.
I appreciate your transparency and upfront and straight up. I think in doing so, when we do that, that means that we're starting right. I don't have a problem with it. That end of the county has fell short. I think every board, a lot of every commissioners that been in the area since I've been on this board, they tried a lot, you know, you're moving forward. I don't think that, I don't feel as if that I would be against it. I would be for it, I would support it. I think it's a good process. I know that, you know, it's something that end down there, you know, it's like in the area. I support it. I appreciate you bringing that out, having that south end.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I will say that the plan is to acquire the old arena that's next to it, so that'll give the county a total of 40 acres at some point. It's not gonna happen right away, but at some point, we will own 40 acres that surrounds that arena altogether, and that arena's been there, and they've been having rodeos there, Lord, since before I was here. So that's kind of the push to buy that piece of property, was because it was next to the old arena, and to have that history and to keep it in the same place.
I do have another question.
Yes, sir.
I see this home on there, 13,314 square foot home.
Yes, sir.
What condition is that, the house?
It's in pretty fair condition. It could be used for an office or whatever we choose to do, or, you know, you probably couldn't use it for public, because you'd have to go in and do public, you know, restrooms, and you know how that all goes. But as far as if you ever had a staff or whatever down there, you could use it for that without having to build anything that's already on the property.
I see all 2 wells, clear, storage building.
The storage buildings, that was part of the negotiation. He wanted those little storage buildings because it's got all this stuff in it, and so that was part of the negotiation, is for him to keep the storage buildings so he can just pick them up and move them. He lives in North Carolina now, so his son was living there, and they've still got a lot of things there. And I had it pushed to an October closing. It's October 3rd closing, I believe. So it will be in another budget year, but we've got a signed contract from him, and we have the appraisal. So, and that's the 10% above. The 10% above the appraisal price is what we can legally do with 4 votes. It takes 4 votes to make that happen. So I'm hoping there's 4 of them up here to vote for.
Chairman, I'm for you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Lane.
I would echo most of what Commissioner Clemens said. I appreciate the transparency and the backstory, because there wasn't a lot here and how we got there. And you know, the south end, and I understand the need, and I've driven by there when they're having one of those rodeos, and I think Sam's guys are usually there because they're backflow down there on the road and on the side of the road, and this property lies adjacent to it. Just a couple of comments I would say though is on the additional on this contract. The seller wants if we sell the home or decide to sell it, he wants
First right of refusal.
at our price.
At our price.
Okay. And the second one is, you know, I think it's a little high, but it's a seller's market, and it's probably a one-time opportunity to expand that riding arena. I mean, I'll just pick your thoughts on that.
I won't disagree with it's too high, or I thought it was too high, but as you know, when you're trying to buy something and they know you're trying to buy it, you've got to negotiate, so that's what
Probably
we're
get it off of that.
That's just process by.
If it ever hits the open market, I believe it'd sell probably for pretty close to what he's asking, and I've asked Luana about it, Ms. Gaylord, and he said probably so that was the push to get it. So if anybody has anything, any disagreements, I'm all open to hear.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind.
Yes, sir.
Well, you got plenty of acres there. I mean, I heard you say economic development. It is definitely tourism. It definitely touches that. And then, like you, Commissioner Lane, I see truck after truck and trailer after trailer down there, you know, Friday and Saturday nights. But with that amount of land, I mean, it gives us the opportunity for other types of growth down there, you know. They're great. Been very good at getting grants and a couple of things happening with that, so definitely not against it. Don't, like you say, the price is high, but it's probably not. Like someone just said one time. Yeah.
But, yes, sir.
I would be against what they're saying. Microphone. I commend you for doing your homework. And I think the only thing you come in here tonight without was a motion, and I'll offer that.
Well, I appreciate that, and, motion by Commissioner Stapleton.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fleming. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. I appreciate it, gentlemen. Thank you.
Mr. Scott, go to work, sir.
Yes, sir.
Please.
Get off my vacation now.
I told him he couldn't retire until we got something going there. Sorry, I ran past the time specific at 5:05 or as soon thereafter as the matter can be heard. Hold a public hearing to consider adoption of an ordinance of Suwannee County, Florida, amending Chapter 10 amusements and entertaining by deleting the entirety of Article 3 Internet cafes and creating and adding a new Article 3 simulated gambling devices, setting forth findings of fact, providing definitions, providing for a prohibition against the use of simulated gambling devices in the unincorporated areas of Suwannee County, providing exemptions, providing for conflict with state laws, providing for enforcement penalties, and penalties, providing for inclusion in the county code, providing for the repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability and effective date. Mr. Pravat.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the long-awaited, long-noticed awaited ordinance dealing with internet cafes and simulated gambling. Actually, when you saw in your packet that you have there, what you had was a slightly different version in that I had sent to Ms. Frederickson when I hit send an earlier draft of it, so it just had a couple of typos and misspellings and that kind of thing in it. So what you have tonight is that corrected, version of that, correcting those little things. So, we've been talking about this for a number of months, and really I don't have anything to say about the ordinance other than we are in coordination, as I explained before, with Columbia County and Live Oak in keeping the language and keeping the enforcement, intact. Otherwise, I'll answer any questions that you have.
Anybody have anything?
So I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
We do.
Yes, sir.
Anybody wishing to speak on this, would you stand and raise your hand, sworn in?
No. You're gonna comment after all this time? Okay. Okay. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give before the board this evening will be the truth so help you God? I do. Thank you, sir. If you're gonna come speak, come speak.
Come on up. Name and address for the record.
Wayne Haneker, 11883 93rd Road. I just want to say thank you to the commissioners, and a special thank you to Mr. Stapleton. Without his support, we would have gotten to this point here, and we certainly would have not gotten to the point of the city there. And I think the real thing is, you're not closing businesses, you just tell them they can't use an illegal machine. So, but I just want to say thank you. I know that you all support get rid of these things, and we don't need illegal gambling in our town. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Is there any other board discussion? If not, do we have a motion to adopt the resolution?
I'll offer a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Stapleton, second by Commissioner Fleming. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Resolution adopted. We will now close the public hearing. Moving on to general business, item number 17, discuss with possible board action and offers on surplus property located in Brantford. I think this is the health department. Mr. Harris, yes, please.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, the board had established a minimum price of $90,000 on this particular property that has been surplus. You received the appraisal on the property. You've got that number in your packet, and this offer that you have before you today actually is for the $90,000 that the board had established as the minimum price.
Any discussion? Do I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Land, second by Commissioner Stapleton. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Item number 18, discuss with possible board action offers on surplus property located on 112th Street. Mr. Harris.
Chairman. Yes. No, change on that.
Am I right? Number 18.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, you had previously established a minimum price of $6,500 an acre. You have a couple of offers, neither of which come anywhere near the price that you had set. I will point out for the record, and I was going to do this when we just finished last night, the proceeds from these sales, I think the commission has decided are going to go toward purchases that we're undertaking right now. So I'll just point that out, that you've got offers there that fall considerably short of the number that you had established on that piece of property.
Mr. Harris, I don't disagree with you. Make sure I'm looking at this right. This second page is the appraisal at the 475 number, right?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. I'll speak to it if you want me to.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Mr. Land.
I mean, I know that we were all hoping for a higher number on our offers, but with that said, I mean, looking at an appraisal, I'm trying to find the date here. It was like December 31st, 2021, of 475. Our highest offer is 495. We're now in the process of purchasing 2 tracks. But one of them, the 169th, and now the one on 129 South. Personally, I feel like an economic downturn is inevitable at some point. We've discussed that multiple times on various topics throughout the last month or so at our meetings regarding different issues. But I mean, I'm kind of leaning toward taking this highest offer and putting the money toward some of these other purchases, and unless we got to borrow on a line of credit. That's just kind of my 2 cents on where I'm at. I was hoping to be a higher number, but think we're legal, since we have a appraisal at 475, to go below what we kinda had our heart set on, but that's just my 2 cents, but I'm just, wanna buy it up here.
Mr. Brevett, what's the options here? Can we just,
You can take one of the offers, or you can reject them all and go back again, and relist it for another appropriate period of time.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Putnam?
I don't disagree, Commissioner Land, of, that we're probably gonna have a slowdown here. I'm hesitant to take this offer. I mean, I feel like with the people's money, we're, on one hand, we're spending it and having to pay a high price. I mean, I'd like to be able to keep that what we're selling. I mean, it's a excellent location, an excellent piece of property. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to maybe changing our number again. Our asking price on a per acre. I would like to see this person get a little more than that. As Commissioner Land said, I'm on.
Is that 6,500 what we've always had on it, or did we lower it?
Changed.
That's what we reduced.
You lowered it to that, I think it
Started at 7.
7?
Started at 7.
Yeah, I think you just, what was the price on that property? You just got over 5,000 an acre.
Right at, same, right at 5.
Mr. Chairman, while you wondering, I would like to say that I know that we just, the 32 acres down in the Brantford area, but it's been, to me, neglected. And I'm looking at 120 acres, 6,500, 495 or 475 or 465, whatever that price is. I'm looking out for the taxpayers' money as well. I'd rather get more than what they're trying to offer. I don't know whether we're doing ourselves any justice, not being a rebuttal, Mr. Lane, but, we're thinking about, we're looking at a lot of money here. We're all taxpayers, I'm a taxpayer, but that's what you have to look out for. And this 32 acres is a one-time deal. Now, this situation here, I wouldn't quit selling it anyway. So it do give me an avenue.
Right.
It does give me an avenue to speak out and say that, I think we need to do a little better.
Why don't we go back again at 5,500 an acre?
I was thinking 6, and maybe we'll get our offer, come back and somewhere around.
Well, and Mr. Chairman, I want to speak to this too, because everyone has spoke a little bit, that I agree. I'm concerned about the turning of the economy, but I'm also agreeing with the other 2 commissioners that, we just paid not once but twice now for land top dollar.
Yeah.
And there's no reason that someone shouldn't pay the people of Suwannee County top dollar. I don't even know about reducing. Not being ugly, I just want to be right.
Well, we got an appraisal.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Land.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good with whatever y'all wanna do. My take on it is I believe and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, the 169th is 100 and, how many acres? 120, and we had appraisal on it around the $5,100 an acre on that one. Yeah, we are paying top dollar, but this is for the 32 acre piece, and I think that the seller of that piece knows our need, but the difference in the acreage, I mean, it's kinda hard to compare a 32 acre tract on US 129 to a 120 acre tract on 112. Yeah, they're inferior and superior in different characteristics, but in my experience, normally your first or second offer is normally your best. We have appraisals of land that we purchased around that $5,000 an acre mark. So, I mean, if y'all wanna go back and try to hey, we need 55 or whatever, I mean, I think just try to stay at 65 or 6. I mean, we're not even holding an appraisal that supports, that I'm aware of. I mean, we don't have this appraisal here on this particular property, is at 475 divided by 120. I just did it, it's 4,000 and something, I don't have it up now. but-
4,100.
So $4,100 an acre, so I don't know that, I mean, we keep going back, meanwhile, feds are talking about another half a point, they're talking about it. I don't mean they're gonna do it, they're talking about another 0.5% increase on the rate, and I've already, I think our building department will tell you, he's already seen a little bit of slowdown on building permits in the last few weeks from what the average has been the past 6 months, so I don't wanna keep fishing and end up shooting ourselves in the foot, but there again, I understand where all of you guys are coming from, and I respectfully understand that, and it is taxpayer dollars, so you wanna maximize it. I'm just a little concerned with continuing to try to maximize it, and then it end up costing us, I guess all I'm saying, but if y'all wanna go back, okay, no more buildings here, we'll go back and try to get a little higher. Totally.
Mr. Chairman, can we say anything?
No. How does everybody feel about the $5,500 mark?
We don't have appraisal to support that, but if y'all wanna ask that, I mean, I don't know, that's what I want myself.
It would be nice to be able, as you said earlier in your statement, to have, create some cash flow off this to cover some of the properties we are purchasing without having to borrow and things of that nature. Or you can use up funds we have laying around, but I don't want to drop to the bottom of the barrel on this thing.
Yeah, you know,
Anybody
I'll go
else?
on whatever y'all wanna do, I just throwing out my 2 cents.
What you said, accepting 5,500 or asking 5,500?
Asking.
I'll chime in, if you could, Mr. Chairman. If there's somebody that would like to comment from the,
Can we do that?
yes, sir, we
Okay.
can.
Mr. Wainwright?
I know a lot of guys that didn't bid on it.
Excuse me.
Can you come to the podium, please? Name and address.
Ron Wainwright, 71-736 First Road. I know guys that didn't bid on it because of the number that y'all said. And I think that if you put it out there that you're just gonna take the highest bid next time, that many of us probably would bid on it. But none of us was gonna pay the 7,000, so we thought that was a floor that y'all put on it. And so many of us didn't even entertain doing it. So if you're gonna do that, I would say put it out there for 30 more days, take the highest bid then. You want on it now, but I know guys that would bid on it if y'all start getting on down closer to what the appraisal is. Thank you.
Thank you. So that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I'm good with that. That was our first time we talked about it. We, you know, we felt like that. What happened, so we lowered it, hoping to get more, but maybe we just say, hey, there ain't a minimum. Y'all bid on it.
And chime in again, once you say that there's not a minimum on it, and then you put it back out there for the 30-day bid process, it then becomes an open bid at 30 days for whatever the price is offered, and then at that time, then the highest bid will be accepted. Because it's just,
Because there's no
you've gone
limits
back to
on it.
the regular bid
Right.
process rather than going through, you know, the alternative process that we've used to. So if you put it in that way, you know, those bids will be the bids.
Said 5,500.
But that would be they'd have to offer that much at least.
I mean, with council saying that, I mean, I definitely think we ought to put a number on it.
So we're gonna put 55?
That's what I'm good at. I mean, y'all tell me off the top.
I mean, it's above the appraised value. That's,
Do you need a motion on this, Mr. Pratt?
Yes, sir. I mean, if we're gonna change to an open bid process, I wanna make sure of that. Now, like with any other bid, you can reject all bids, but it's a different process of rejecting a bid, you know, for, that, rather than what we're doing here, you know, accepting offers, bantering, and, you know, that type of thing. So, once you enter this process, it becomes reject all bids, and then have to go and rebid, just a little bit different process, different notice that we have to do.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if we want to do the open, I don't know if I'm comfortable with the open bid, but maybe us discussing the 55 or something like that. I don't know, even though we can reduce it, I get it, or we can reject it, I mean.
My only concern with sorry, Mr. Chairman.
No, you're fine.
My only concern with, setting the minimum is I agree with Mr. Wainwright. If we set that minimum, I mean, we're looking at appraisal at $39.58, I redid the math, $39.58 an acre. If I'm wrong, y'all tell me. And then this phone says $41.25 an acre is what our offer is. If we're gonna set it as high as what, like he said, 5,500, I mean, you're still not gonna get but one or two, because we're expecting whatever it's for, $1,500 an acre is what we're gonna set our minimum at, above what any of these numbers are. So I don't know that 55 is gonna get us any better, like Mr. Wainwright said, or if we need to go to 5. I mean,
Give me a
I don't
number.
have the right answer.
Give me a number. Let's make a
Whatever y'all
deal.
wanna do, I'll go along whatever.
Let's make
Well, I like
a deal.
having the conversation, I want to hear from if y'all don't mind, hear from that side of the table down there.
Well, I made my statement.
He said he don't want to sell it.
I don't want to sell it. To be honest with you. I said that for one motion, and I still stand on that, but I want the most buck that we can get if I'm selling it.
I just need a number.
What'd you say that? Last math you just did?
The $39.58, $3,958 an acre is the appraised value. And the highest offer, and so the public knows, I mean, all we have is offer one, offer two. I don't know who these people are, or companies or whatnot. All we have is the numbers, that we're looking at. I don't know if this is in y'all's packet or not. But the $495 is offer number two, and the other offer price is $323,500. But using the highest offer, which is offer number two, the $495, that is $4,125 behind that. To answer your question, Commissioner Harold.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a brief comment?
Yes, sir. Mr. Harris.
I think this board would love to be able to buy property at those prices, but you haven't been able to. And you're buying property and paying over $5,000 an acre for it now. I do like, if the board decides to stick with the process that you've been using, the process isn't broken so far.
That's right.
I mean, it's just, you've got to decide on the number.
How about this, 5250?
I'm good with that. I'm good with that.
I could agree with that.
You still don't want to sell it.
He wants to split the difference at $10,000 an acre.
He's always
I'm
been
not
pretty.
gonna be a hold up. It's that, and I hate to be the dead on. We work hard to get it, and to lose it, and unless, you know, I mean, good piece of property, prime property, but I don't wanna be standing in the way of any progress.
That being said, do I have a motion to re-advertise, reject all bids and re-advertise at $5,250 an acre?
How many days? 30?
30 days.
I'll go to do that.
Motion by Commissioner Land.
I don't necessarily have a problem with it. It's gonna be. I just
He
want,
needs a minute.
I just want to make sure, I mean, guys, we sit up here and we discuss a lot of things and we try to support one another as hard and as much as we can, and we try to do it in the best interest of the people. And I don't like it when we don't all see terms here, and I just want to, look at Mr. Fleming and just say, even at this amount, if that, and I didn't hear Mr. Stapleton's comments on it, he was for or against it, but, I mean, I just want the people to at least get their money back or make a profit, you know, I mean, so that we can use that money to forward the growth and the things that we do in Suwannee County. That's my only conversation topic of it, so.
I agree with 100% of that.
I did.
What he said.
We go, did you second that?
Awesome.
For discussion.
Yeah, for discussion.
Okay, for the record there, all of you in the public, that was a long way around him saying, I second the motion, and then having discussion afterwards. Okay?
Yes.
Second by Commissioner Hale. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Item 19, discuss with possible board action construction of pole barn located at Public Works. Mr. Harris.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this bid that we turned in all exceed what was budgeted for this pole barn. And we've been trying to build this thing out there, get some of this equipment out of the weather, but if the board entertains doing anything with these bids, I would submit to you that in the budget, you approved $140,000 for another building on the property out there that I have held off on doing anything with because of the price of construction right now. So if you want to go ahead and consider this pole barn now, you can take some of the money that was otherwise allocated to that building, and then we'll discuss that building when we get into budget workshops. Consider doing it next year. In any event, as it pertains to the actual bids, I gave you a corrected copy of the bid tabulation. And the reason for that is if you look to your second page, McKenna Services, down at the bottom, or right in the middle of that subsection 2, he offered an alternative of using steel trusses. That price came to $93,269. That's the number that you see on the spreadsheet as option 3 for McKenna Services. I also want to draw your attention to another number that's on this spreadsheet. That's up at the top where it says Jim's Complete Construction of St. Cloud, Florida. He's got an option 2 there that reads $53,800. And I knew when I saw that number that it was not the correct number, so I called them. And I asked him, if you go to the original information that you had behind your tab in your book, go to the third page, you'll see his summary page. I'll give you an opportunity to get to that summary page. It says James Berry up at the top here, and that particular summary page. You see that page number 3?
Second page.
Okay. Down in the middle of that, you can see that he submitted a bid of $96,797. And then under that, he wrote in smaller font, optional metal truss instead, $53,800. Well, the problem with the way he wrote that up, he isn't telling you if it's a deduction or an addition, or if it's the cost of building the building. So I called him as a courtesy, and I said, would you like to explain yourself on this number? Because otherwise on that spreadsheet, it looks like that's the lowest number. Well, he recognized that he had made a mistake, and he had not entered his information accurately, and no, he cannot build the building for $53,800. He said, let me take a close look at it and I'll call you back, which he did. And he said, well, the actual number should be $85,811. And I'll send you an email that says that. I told him that traditionally, the board does not allow someone to submit a new number after we have made all the bid responses public, and we had done that prior to the time that he submitted this new number. You'll see, this was just yesterday, I got this email, $85,811. So everyone's bid prices were out. We were posted on Demand Star and elsewhere. So any company would have had the opportunity to look at everyone else's price and then submit a number. In any event, I'm sharing with you what you sent to me in an email. But the lowest price that you had at the time that we opened the bids was actually from McKenna Services in the amount of $93,269.
Commissioner, can you, I'm confused.
Me too.
Would you mind explaining to me the differences between option 1, 2, and 3? I know that option 2, I think, is wood posts, I'm assuming the concrete and metal trusses, and option 1 is maybe the same thing but wood trusses, but what's option 3?
Well, option 1, the way that it was designed and the blueprints and specifications read, it was all wood. You've got 8x8 wooden posts, they're notched at the top, and the large wooden trusses bolt into the top of those posts, and the headers do.
So option 1's all wood.
All wood, with metal siding and metal roof.
Well, the way I read it, it says use a pre-engineered metal building in place of the wood frame structure.
Well, each one of them submitted their own options, okay? So it depends on which contractor you're reading to see what they're offering as an option.
Well,
This is McKenna's
Yeah,
on
look at-
option 1,
his number 2 though, he's still not using wood.
using steel open web trusses and steel roof purlins in place of wood trusses and wood purlins. In option 3, I don't see an option 3. I'm gonna hand out sheet.
So looking at the book,
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Okay, if you'll go to this page right here. See this page,
Yeah.
Commissioners? What he has listed there as numbers 1 and 2 are actually numbers 2 and 3.
Evidently, we don't have it.
Because the original submittal on a summary page, everyone had to submit to that.
I see.
That was all wood frame. It had the concrete bases for those 8x8 posts. It was all wood frame on all of them. So then they listed their options. He offered 2 additional options, so the numbers are off. If you look at the spreadsheet, everyone on option 1 should be the original building that was spec'd out.
Which was an all wood building?
All wood building with metal roof, metal siding.
And option 2,
Option 2 depends on which one of these contractors you're looking at. But
well, I'm looking at McKenna's because he's the lower bid of all.
Okay, then option 2 is actually is numbered 1 on this page right here. That's the first deviation in his submittal from what we spec'd out. So on the spreadsheet, it's listed as number 2. That's a pre-engineered building.
Now is that, when you say pre-engineered, you talking about one of those tubular builds, or you talking about a red iron one?
He didn't specify in here, he just said pre-engineered metal building. It could be red iron.
I think that's what he means by red iron, I think.
That could mean a lot. Why can't we just go back out and bid it at the spec we want? If that's the way we want to build it.
Well, let me just point something out to you. The lowest price you have here is from him, and that's listed as option 3, and that will work just fine. The difference with that building, it's all wood except the metal truss. And it's got the metal roof on it and the metal siding.
Well, what I'm reading is using steel open web trusses and steel roof purlins in place of wood trusses and wood purlins.
That's correct, but your walls and your posts and
Will be
everything
wood.
are all wood.
Yeah.
You just put a different roof system on it. If you want all wood, you've got the lowest price is, go back to that
Well,
one.
he's lower than the lowest price.
Guess it's
Yeah.
what it's up
Well, his option,
I would say that option 3 is your best option at this point, because it will accomplish what we need.
What's the size of it? Sorry. What's the size of this?
42 by 84,
Yeah.
base facings on 12-foot center. Is that what the other guys bid on too? Same size?
They all bid on the same size, because we had I don't have the blueprints with me, but they all bid the same size bills.
And we had this budgeted at $50,000, is that right?
At 50.
I'm just curiosity, I'd really like to know what pre-engineered metal building is. If that's red iron, 30,000 more. Or if that's galvanized tubular.
Well, that option 3 on this beaten ball fella or plumb level construction says tubular metal building.
Okay. Well, then maybe that's what McKinnis means.
I don't know, because he didn't specify that.
And then
We were
option,
actually, I mean, we could discuss that with him, but we were actually, we built this same type structure for fire services at least a year ago, maybe a year ago we finished it. It was all wood, and that's what we started with in our specifications. The only difference here on this option 3 is that you use metal trusses and metal purlins. And that particular barn that we did a little over a year ago, I think was $83,000, a little better than 83, maybe close to $84,000.
and this is concrete floor and all, or is this just a building?
The concrete is what the 8x8 posts are sitting on.
Okay.
I don't think that's red iron.
The floor is,
That's one of the tubular building.
Well, no, I'm doing the pre-engineered metal building. That's what it's, the definition. It's not
Mr.
red
Chairman,
iron.
Commissioner Land.
What, is it gonna hurt us if we bring this back and maybe
No.
get some clarification, say,
no, it isn't hurt a thing.
I'm okay with not rebidding it, but just clarify with a couple of these guys what exactly is option 2 and option 3. I mean, I see McKinnis's numbers and I kinda like them, but I'm kinda curious on if that's red iron. I don't think it is, but curious about that, and then kinda clean it up a little bit, bring it back with some more details.
Well, I'd just like to know if it's the tubular design, or if it's, like you're saying, it's the open web steel trusses with steel purlins.
Option 3 is.
Yeah. But I mean, I'd like clarification, because the one guy in there's got tubular steel building on his. So I'm wondering if McKinnis, is that not what he's doing too? I'm like Commissioner Land, I just like to be sure
Yeah,
of
we
what
can
we're
bring this
getting.
back. It's not a problem to bring it back.
Yeah, if that don't hurt you, I don't wanna stall progress, but if that don't hurt you for clarification, we're talking about $100
It
grand.
ain't gonna hurt a thing to bring it back.
All right, let's get some clarification. Y'all good with that? The rest of y'all.
I am. So item 19 brought back at the next meeting for clarification. With that being said, we'll move on to additional agenda items. Item number 1, discuss utilities for properties adjacent to 68 Terrace. Mr. Harris.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, it's been fast and furious in the economic development business lately. I know the Chairman's attended a lot of meetings, probably some of you Commissioners have had a number of conversations with Mr. Norris, and we're trying our best to figure out how we can continue to try to accommodate companies that are coming in here talking to us. The chairman and I have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow morning with the city to discuss a possibility of some type of joint venture on utilities expansion in the areas that's growing the most. And that's from the bypass road north up to I-10. We know that there are some services there, some of those have to be upgraded, the lift station does. There are other areas where there are no services. And I just want you to know that the chairman and I are going to be discussing that with the city, and anything that we come up with, we'll come back to the board and continue the conversation. There will be multiple representatives of the city in this conversation with us in a meeting tomorrow. Our hope is, and some of you may recall that we had a conversation a number of years ago about this very thing with the city, and it just never got anywhere, it never materialized. Nothing ever became of it. We were very hopeful, but nothing became of it. So I think now there may be an opportunity. And clearly I'm encouraged by it, because we can't be in the business of building all the utilities all over the place. If we can enter a joint venture with the city and try to accomplish some of these things to bring more businesses and economic development, job creation in the county, we're going to be better off. So what I wanted to mention overall is that depending on the outcome of the conversations tomorrow, I'd like for the board to go ahead and authorize me to pursue some grant opportunities or some funding opportunities that we might be able to pursue to put a package together to come back and talk to the board about the expansion of some utilities.
Does everybody know what we're talking about here?
Mr. Chairman, maybe I can clarify it just a bit. Item number 1, when it says discuss utilities for adjacent to, he's informing you that that's where the area that we're looking at additional utilities. What the item should say is that to grant authority to the county administrator to pursue grant opportunities for the 68th Terrace area.
There may be
For
other areas
utilities.
out there. Let me just say this. Because the chairman's been more involved in this than anyone. I mean, we had so many meetings lately.
Just
That
demonstrate.
isn't the only area. I mean, we're looking at, my goodness, I need $11 million out of the catalyst site for utilities expansion. And we're working on a grant for a smaller piece of that. I've broken we've got the different components broken down into 4 different components, because there isn't a single grant that typically you can get to cover all of that type of cost. That's what we're trying to do out of the catalyst site right now. We're looking at other opportunities. This conversation came up more recently about not just the area of 68, but back down to the bypass road and other areas in that immediate vicinity, from everywhere from Lowe's on up north to I-10. And it could change before we come back here in your next board meeting. But I need authorization to go ahead and continue to start looking for grant opportunities and funding opportunities for that particular area as well. And this is in addition to what we're looking for out there at the county site.
And just for the public, so you understand where we're talking about. Out where Lowe's is, the old road that goes down to the old Badcock warehouse, that's the area we're talking about. And north of there up 129, but like Mr. Harris said, we're gonna meet with the city tomorrow to see if we can work something out with them as well. So maybe it'd be a joint venture between the two of us. So I just want, for public information, just want you to be aware of exactly what we're talking about.
And be as ambiguous as possible.
Yes, because there's some.
Because we have non-disclosure agreements.
We do.
Every company that comes in the door says that they don't want to be identified. They don't want anyone to know what type of business they're in, or they don't want their identity out there, and we can't share that. But the reality is, infrastructure is the heartbeat of economic development. Without it, you have nothing. It's all about roads and transportation, concurrency, and water and sewer at this point. Those have been our biggest challenges for the last
It's the first question they ask.
10 or 12 years.
Has it got water and sewer?
First question I always get asked.
Mr. Chairman, go ahead and on the motion.
Oh, well, Mr. Pravat, are we specific on what we're doing here?
I would say instead of 68 terraces, we're gonna do it that, I would say, how about
And general area?
an area north of this city limits,
South of the Georgia line.
and south of the Georgia line. North of the city limits, and do you wanna keep it to I-10, because we really wanna roll it past I-10?
I mean, the reality is things are happening so rapidly right now that I just need a general authorization from the board to pursue grant opportunities if we recognize that we need utilities or infrastructure.
Can we just say in that?
What's the next
vicinity?
paved road up there to the right? What's?
Skeen Road?
Skeen Road.
Skeen Road, you got,
How about
137.
68th Terrace north to Skeen Road?
How about 72nd Trace north to Skeen Road?
How about the city limits?
No.
North.
Right.
North. Because here's, I could go into far more details than anyone wants to hear right now, but there's also a lift station issue that the city's dealing with that may have to become a part of this, 2 lift stations. And they're in different locations out there in that vicinity. I'd say north of the city limit,
To Skeen
until we
Road.
can't go any farther.
If you run out of money.
I mean, the next road past that's 31, 36. You got Richards Road, but that's kind of in between there, just like.
I would think
to the west.
70, I think Skeen Road would get us far enough up there for right now. So, any other discussion on that? Is that good, Mr. Pravat?
I will say
From the
this,
city limits to.
Mr. Chairman,
Excuse me, go ahead.
I was gonna say, it hadn't been long ago, we were trying to find funding to go all the way to Music Park. And I've had some email interaction with our engineers about that recently, still trying to find the money for that. In fact, Mr. Bailey had a discussion not long ago, was that in Tallahassee?
Yes, sir.
And we have continued that conversation. So if that comes to fruition, then we'll be bringing that back to you. But that's from the direction the board gave a long time ago.
Chairman, how about just north of the city limits?
I was gonna say, is there a problem with just saying?
No, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
gonna be grant money anyway, so I mean, if it,
They're probably gonna be identified as some form of route that usage.
so anything north of, discuss utility for properties from the city limits north.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hale, second by Commissioner Land, all in favor?
Aye.
It's all opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Commissioner Hale, did you say?
Yes. No,
You would make a motion, Land?
Yep.
Item number 2 under additional items, approval of modification number 5 to sub-grant agreement, Department of Economic Opportunity regarding Cdbg grant, Railsburg. Mr. Harris.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this is something that Shannon and I have worked on for a long time. This modification, most of this, the biggest part of this is an extension of time for us to close out a grant where we had completed the work some time back. I think it's been well over a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, we were having conference calls with DPO about this very thing, recognizing that the grant itself needed to be extended, the term did, so that we could get the closeout completed. And it just took them a long time to get it put together. So while we were trying to get the extension put together on the timeline for closing out the paperwork, we also had the change in ownership of the sawmill. So that's spoken to in the modification as well, because one of the participating parties in the original Cdbg agreement for funding for the rail spur was Foster. And we had to changed that now. Vanderholt's, they've entered into a participating party agreement. The other party is Matco. So in addition to the extension of time that we needed for closing out the paperwork, there was also the auditing period for the job creation numbers that were a part of the original grant terms and conditions. This modification accomplishes all of the things that we need to accomplish at this time.
So are we completely finished with it?
We are finished with the construction work. The companies are being audited now. Those numbers, from a date certain when they looked and they certified employment records, they track those for another year.
But as far as construction goes, we've completed everything that's.
That's correct. And it has been completed for quite some time. And this does not, Mr. Pravat, calm down. This does not give us an opportunity to open back up the construction period. That was completely finished sometime back, and we've got the records on that. And we don't need to go into the conversation on why that.
No, Mr. Harris and I have resolved this, and Mr. Chairman, this is purely just a technical thing that we have to do to wrap it up.
Any discussion? Or a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Fleming,
Second.
second by Commissioner Hale. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Additional item number 3, approval of task order with North Florida Professional Service Incorporated in the amount of $68,000 for service associated with the Davis-Bacon Act as required for County Road 137 utility extension project. Budget impact to be paid from ARPA funds. Mr. Harris.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this is a requirement because we're using federal funding. It's one of the fundamental requirements they put in their funding agreements. So our request is that we go ahead and authorize this so that it'll be ready when they come and audit our records.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I thought we already approved that Davis-Bacon Act deal when we approved the contract.
Yes, sir.
On the original,
Mr. Chairman, there is in the supplemental task order, there are some things that need to be corrected right at the top. So what I would ask you to do, I'm not opposed to the regular format of the agreement, but there's some scrivener's error that needs to be corrected so that it will apply only to the 137th extension project. So if you would go ahead and approve this, I would ask you to approve it subject to county attorney approval to get those minor things corrected.
I'm confused here.
Me too.
I thought we approved this already with the Davis-Bacon Act in it. So why are we coming back
on
now?
137,
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember us asking that question in the meeting. Does this
Yeah.
include Davis-Bacon?
Yeah.
Is this everything? And now we got this for another $68,000 in regards to Davis-Bacon. So I'm kind of confused too.
I'll have to go back and pull it because we did that with 136.
Well, I knew we did, I know we had to come back on 136, I remember that. But I know I asked specifically when we was doing the contract on this, that was the Davis-Bacon Act included in that price?
Let's just pull it and bring it back with the task order that was associated with the original design on this. To see if it was there, because I don't remember it being with the design on the extension of the collection lines and transmittal lines down 137.
Well, I'm not saying, I mean, that's just the way I remember it, and I just like some clarification.
We'll go back and pull the other agreements, take a look at it, we'll bring it back.
Very well, that'll be moved to the next meeting. Did I miss anything?
Yes, it isn't listed on here, but I need to comment on something.
Mr. Harris?
Shannon's working on, where are you, Shannon? He's working on losing all of his hair. We've got another grant opportunity to resurrect this housing thing with Cdbg, the whole program, and it requires hearings and some other steps, a lot of different procedures. But we're gonna have to have a couple of, I'm gonna call them special called public hearings. In reality, it's just a couple of dates that we're gonna have public hearings that are required as a part of the process for getting where we need to be in order to put in place another Cdbg program for housing repairs and assistance and those types of things. Now, I say that because we're not gonna be able to have them on Tuesdays. We're gonna have to set some dates on your, when I say Tuesdays, I'm talking about your regular board meeting dates. Because third-party administrator, in this case, it has been Fox Enterprises, is not gonna be able to be there on the dates of your regular board meetings. So, let me see if I can find the dates that, you got the dates?
Yes, sir, indeed.
Good. I had one with a sticky note on it, though, that showed some dates that
What,
commissioners couldn't be there.
what is this for, Mr. Harris?
There's some procedural things that have to be done in order for us to apply for Cdbg funding for housing. It's a housing program, but we do repairs and reconstruction and replace roofs and all types of things. And it's been in place and it expired, and we're trying to get that back up and running again. It was time for us to start a new cycle of that. So we've got to go through all of these procedural steps in order to get where we need to be.
Is this like through the SHIP program, or is this different, or
This wasn't handled through SHIP, was it?
No, sir, this is handled through HUD.
HUD?
Yes, sir.
We've been through it before, and quite frankly, some of these no one even shows up for, but these are steps that you have to take, and you have to document everything, and have sign-in sheets. But again, it's a procedural requirement. So, this has to be finished by the, is it 19th?
Has to be submitted by July 19th.
Yeah, so we don't have a great deal of time, and we've got 2 public hearings to have.
Can we do one when we're having a workshop?
Andy, what are the dates of the, was there FACs? You had those on.
28 through July 1st.
What?
28.
28 through July 1st.
Okay. So those that are going to FAC, we can't schedule one between June 28th and July 1st.
Has to be advertised for 2 weeks.
It's a 1 week.
1 week advertising?
Yes, sir. And the meetings have to be at least 1 week apart. Can't do them both in the same week.
That 19th is our deadline.
July 19th, yes, sir.
The workshop's when? June 15th? So you don't have time to advertise it and have it at the same time we do the workshop?
No, sir, there's a committee that has to be formed. And that has to be formed before the first public hearing.
Oh,
We have to have time to send all the blood samples out and get the certificates back.
yes. Does the chairman have to attend?
There has to be a minimum of a quorum. I'll just say that.
Okay.
But he's being the evening, for sure.
Yeah. Does somebody have to come other than the board, Mr. Harris, is what you're saying?
Fox Enterprises has to be there.
And what's his schedule?
Well, I've got the dates that he cannot be there. No, let me give you dates that he can be. Okay, so you've got 6/22, 6/24, 6/29, 7/1, 7/6, 7/8, 7/13, and 7/15.
So I'm gonna ask.
And I think those are all Saturday mornings, about 6 o'clock.
Yeah. How about that, the 29th, that's a Wednesday, that evening? Would be our first one.
Back.
You can't do it that one? All right.
Three commissioners on.
All right. I thought, what was the date? I thought it was, 28th, I'm sorry.
The 24th.
22nd.
So the 29th is out because of,
22nd.
yeah.
All right, what about the 22nd then?
Well, I'm saying you can scratch 6/29, 7/1,
Right.
7/6.
6/22?
I can do 6/22.
22 and 24.
So they gotta be,
24's too close.
yeah, you gotta have them a week apart.
I will be,
6/22.
22 and the 8th.
the win,
The 8th, 22nd, and then the 8th.
I have no life.
I'll be
so it
gone.
doesn't matter.
I'll be gone that week,
Which week?
4th through the 9th.
Tonight.
Are you good on the 22nd? How many of you can be there on the 22nd?
I can do the 22nd.
Everybody's good on the 22nd?
Yep.
So we're good on the 22nd?
What time? Early or late? I got a job.
Late.
What's your preference, sir? I'll-
Evening.
Early, 6 o'clock in the morning.
Well, I can do that too, or 6 in the evening.
Why so late?
Hey, I get up at 4:30, we can get rolling whenever you want. I'm sure it depends on Mr. Fox, I'm quite sure.
Probably. I would say with them, probably 9 o'clock might be the earliest.
Where does he have to come from?
Jacksonville.
How about 9:30?
Okay, we'll go with that.
Everybody good with that?
9:30 on the 22nd. Okay, what's your second date? The 6th to the 8th.
What's the name? What's this meeting on this?
What's he got after that?
You can do July, when are you gonna be gone?
4th on that week.
On to when?
You be back
Yeah.
13th?
Probably just take the whole month off.
All we need is
Just that
3.
week.
All we need is
Yeah.
3.
All we need is
All we
3.
need is
Okay.
3.
Gotcha.
So,
So the 6th to the 8th.
8th's on what day? Friday? How about the 6th? That's on a Wednesday.
Either day y'all pick is good for me.
6th.
I like it. Are you retired already?
So we
Won't be long after that.
have three for the 6th,
6.
6 at the same time, is that good? You good, Trevor?
9:36.
9:30.
On July 6th.
Yeah.
I can do
All right, 22nd and the 6th.
9:30 both days.
Correct.
I'm just figuring a couple hours for him to drive over here, so.
that. Mandy, you gonna remind us of this?
You'll have to.
Gosh, I hope so.
I'm putting it in here, but
That's, you gotta look at it and see it though. Is that good, Mr. Harris? Are we
That's
good
it.
with that?
That's all we need.
22nd too.
22nd.
Did you want to do the county, the commissioner items now, Mr. Stapleton?
I'm fine this time. I would have.
Do it now or not?
No, I don't have anything this time to say.
Okay. Any other, I skipped over the county attorney again. Purposely?
And what do you know? This week I actually have something to talk about.
Well, that's why I skipped over you.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I have two things to address this evening. First is the opioid litigation. This is just another technical matter, but as we've addressed over the last couple of months, there's been several of the opioid settlements that have been completed. And we've gotten a request from the administrator of the national program to be able to verify our employment of our outside counsel and go through, that process. So the first thing I have to do is, as your representative, provide them with a copy of our agreement, with them, and then, me to be able to verify on your behalf that we did employ them to, during the litigation. So I'm just asking again for an authorization to do such as your representative.
Need that in the form of a motion?
Please.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Lanning, second by Commissioner Hale. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. You have it, Mr. Tibet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's move on to the second item. Second item I want to address are the easements that are out there on County Road 137. If you recall, during the process out there, we never really got into being able to do an eminent domain action, and we've been negotiating with all of the owners along there. Several of the owners have gone ahead and donated the property to the county for the easement area. Others, there's actually four of the original 9 sought compensation for the easements along there. When we originally went through, we went ahead and had appraisals of each of the properties, and of each of the 9 properties. And then we set a budget of what we thought we could use to be able to negotiate to get all of the properties along that way. So what we are asking here today is that we've got one property that is what I would recommend a settlement on. The property is Mr. Howard's property along there. He's the one that has the mobile home that's up close to the road right there. There's a recommended figure to pay him for the easement along there and the damages to the remainder of this property. I would ask the board for authorization to approve a $10,000 payment to him, as well as some adjustments that I've made with regard to the mandatory hookup statute to comply with state requirements there that, our ordinance says that if we have available sewer and water along there, you have to mandatorily hook up. But state requirements say that you can give an exemption, for that during the period of time within which the septic system and water system as well, are operational. Once they become non-operational, then they would have to hook up. So I would recommend that we pay him the $10,000 for compensation for the easement and the damages, and then for the side agreement, that's what I'm, for lack of a better word, side agreement, to recognize that he would not have to be hooking up right away, but to delineate those requirements.
So kind of like a non-conforming lot on his well and.
Yes, sir, but that's what the state statute calls for. I mean, if you go out there and he's got a well already along there, yes, you want them to go ahead and hook up. And that's why you have the mandatory provision in our statute. But then, as their equipment goes out, and there's a health department regulation that goes with that, as their equipment goes out, then they would be mandatorily required to hook up.
Mr. Chairman, I've got a question, Mr. Pratt. I've had this question come up, so I'd like clarity on it before we leave. Is there anything that the homeowner has to do at this time, any type of paperwork for that exemption, or are they automatically exempt if their well and their septic tank is functioning as at this time when that water and sewer comes by their house?
It depends on the distance that the well and the septic tank are located from the property. I think you're probably referring to the folks that are on the south side of the road, east side of the road maybe, along those. They fall under the same exception. It's a state statute rather than, this gentleman just wanted to have it re-recognized. But there's a state statute that goes along with that says that, basically the first 3-year period of time, there's no mandatory hookup. But after that period of time, then if you have the health department or, you know, I think it's the health department to regulate septic tanks and yada yada, you know, if they declare that the system is inoperable, then they would have to hook up. But as long as it's operational, they're fine,
With no type of paperwork.
with no type of paperwork.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. So that's one of three that I want to talk about, but I would like to have them each individually addressed, please.
Tonight?
Yes, sir.
Oh, you want to vote?
I'll be a lot shorter on the next two.
I got you. Any discussion or?
No, I mean, I don't have a problem if the gentleman is, if everything's operational, what you're saying, until his well goes dry or he has to pull a permit to replace the septic tank, he can remain as is.
Yes, sir. And like I said, that's a state statute, but these owners wanted to re-up that, I guess you'd say.
And a payment of $10,000.
Of course.
Are we going through a larger portion of this property than others?
No, sir, but we're very close to the residence itself.
Closer to the home?
Yes, sir.
I
And that's
got
why
you.
we have a
I
little,
got you.
our appraiser said that there's additional damages to the residence, and we got some fencing we have to replace. He's got a really sporty dog pen out there that we have to replace.
So
We need a motion to approve the $10,000.
Yes, sir.
I'll approve the motion.
motion by Commissioner Stapleton, second by Commissioner Fleming. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Chairman, can I interrupt for 1 second before you go any further? We discussed this today, we're also gonna need the authorization to have the checks written and released.
I was gonna bring up my item number 4, but if you can do that, it's okay. For each of the items as I go through,
Because
the
we're
last
trying
thing
to-
I will wanna be, yeah.
We've got a contractor out here racing his way in this direction, we're gonna need the funding released in order to get this satisfied before he gets there.
So do we need to amend that or?
No, sir, I'd just save it for item 4 and
Okay.
then be able to go. Or at
Item
least
number-
I can keep it in my order, how's that?
That'll work.
Okay.
Item 2.
Right, and item 2, the next property is, what's known as the Saines property. It's actually, Mr. Saines passed away. We had an agreement with him originally to be able to work with the property. He passed away. His relatives lives in Maryland and in South Florida. And we were able to negotiate with his estate, and now the 3 daughters that have acquired the property for a payment of $20,000 for passing along their particular piece of property. It's the first one as it comes down from the north. It's a larger piece of property. It's a longer distance in the piece of property. Again, I would also ask that we address the item of them wanting clarification about the hookup and stuff. They have a house that's there, but the house is located 1,230 feet, you know, from the road. So they want to have us recognize that because of that distance, we won't be mandatorily required to hook up right away, and then yada 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 down the statute.
Discussion or a motion to approve?
You said 20K?
Yes, sir.
How, you know how many feet this is? It's
Yes,
bigger.
sir.
You don't need to tell me the feet.
I don't know how many feet it was, but actually the appraisal that came in on that property, the Saines property was $15,830.
And they agreed to the 20?
Yes, sir.
I would move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Lamb, second by Commissioner Stapleton. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Item number 3.
Number 3 is the Posens. The Posens have the larger tract that is, it doesn't join the interstate because there's a little sliver that's right there in between. But they have a larger parcel of 115 acres that goes along there. They've requested, the way the easement goes along there, because it's affected by the interstate and the right-of-way for the interstate and the limited access that you're allowed under the state system across there, they have additional problems that are created by us taking up, and with them, we're only taking 20 feet, but we're taking an additional 10-foot construction easement while we work there. But because of the problems that are created, because of the limitation on access, they have greater damage, and it's a larger piece of property, it's a longer piece of property. And so, bantering back and forth, we've now agreed to a figure of, well, let me back up. I recommend a figure of $45,000 on it. I don't want to state tonight that we have an agreement on it because I have not received the text back from the other lawyer before I walked in here, tonight. We're all good, but I haven't received that text back. But I'd like to be authorized to pay that $45,000 when I receive that text to be able to resolve this one. With this particular piece, there is the 92nd path is that little dirt road that goes to the left, going off right there. They've asked for the $45,000 to exclude any compensation that may be due to the owners of that are back there on the pathway. Actually, I don't believe there's any compensation that is due because it is an easement that is already subject to the rights of the Posens in the property. And besides that, the contractor has indicated that there's not going to be any interruption of going across there because of where it's located, closer to a wetland area that you have to directionally drill underneath the property, so there will be no effect on them, whatsoever. But they want, again, have it in there as I'm going to call a side agreement, to be able to do that. So that's what I'm asking for is to authorize me to pay the $45,000 if I get that appropriate response from them and do the side agreement.
Does that finish up?
No, sir, there's one parcel left. It's Mr. Martin's property. That's the very one that's to the south. Originally, it was owned by Mr. Burnham. Mr. Burnham and I had agreed, and I was to sign the paperwork with him on a Tuesday morning to him to grant the easement to the county, and it would be at no cost to the county, period. Well, I was expecting him to show up, and he did. And he showed up at 9:30 on a Tuesday morning, and he had sold the property at 8 o'clock that morning. So I had to start all over again on that particular piece of property. However, the new owner, Markham Enterprises, had indicated that they are all good with this. I have all of the language submitted to them, and he's all good with it. The lawyer just hasn't sent back the text to me saying, hey, we're all good with this. So that's the last piece. I'm expecting it to not have any effect or budgetary effect on the county, so at this time, I haven't brought it before you. But, whenever we have one of these emergency meetings, I may have to do it, in the meantime. Okay?
Any discussion or motion to approve?
That's on the Posen matter, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Motion approved.
Motion by Commissioner Clinton, second by Commissioner Land. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Okay, now item 4, we're back to where Mr. Harris was. Because all of these items are time sensitive, I would like to make sure that the clerk is aware that as soon as these documents are signed, we need to have these things, paid for as quickly. So authorize them to, the clerk to make payment of the checks as soon as I request them. How's that?
So move it.
Motion by Commissioner Land, second by Commissioner Hale. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That it for you, Mr. Corbett?
Well, while y'all passing out checks, is just anything else we want? No, sir, I don't have anything else this evening. Thank you.
Are there any commissioner items that need to be brought forward this time?
I have additional information on number 19 about the Red Iron Building versus Tubular.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Scott texted, Mr. McInnes while we continued the meeting. His option 2 is a Red Iron Building, it is not 2 tubular buildings.
Wood post with red iron roof system.
No, that's total red.
Total red iron?
Total Red Iron Building.
For the 93,000?
No, for 127,850. The 93,269 is wood posts, wood walls, like we spec'd out.
Metal trusses.
Metal trusses, metal purlin. That's the lowest price.
Does that have any doors, roll-up doors, or is it just open
It's
bay?
enclosed on 3 sides, it's open on 1 side.
So there's no real benefit to really doing a full-on red iron building?
No, not at all. When we did the one at the fire station down there, we put the lime rock down and then we put melons on top and rolled it, compacted it real tight. That's what we're using for the floor in there. Because we're parking equipment. In this case, we've got heavy equipment, seeders and sweepers and geotextile fabric that we can store out of weather and other things.
So are you wanting us to revisit that now?
Unless there's another, I mean, that answers your question about red iron, unless
It
there's
does.
another reason that we
Yes,
should
sir.
do it. But I don't need a red iron building. It's more expensive. I think this other one will.
Do what you need to do.
It'll do what we need to do. It's the difference between 93,269 and 127,850. I don't need a more expensive building.
Or
He was the lowest anyway, that 93.
93?
Yeah, fine with
I'm good with it.
393.
With McKenna Services?
All of them.
Motion by Commissioner Stapleton,
Second.
second by Commissioner Lynn. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll do public concerns and comments. Anybody wishing to speak? How would I have guessed? Name and address, please.
Hancock, 6135 Wiggins Road. On the agenda, if you look back on the consent agenda, that's part of it, items 3 and 4. Y'all didn't discuss those. How many times have y'all heard me stand up here and talk about workshops? When the heck you gonna do it? Do y'all know when you're gonna do it? Nobody else does.
The dates are-
The dates are not in the agenda. They were in the agenda packet, which is how I know about them. But y'all didn't mention them. All you gotta do is mention them for the public.
I can do that.
Good. I'll tell you right now, we discussed. I've stood up here since last October when y'all were talking about workshops. When you gonna do it? When you gonna do it? When you gonna do it? And I know I made you mad, but guess what, folks? I'm not gonna be able to do the workshop on the 15th. You know why?
Lord,
Because I don't wanna get a divorce. We're gonna be on vacation.
We actually talked to your wife about this date. That's what we said.
I believe it. So I won't be here
She
for
said
that.
you could stay, she was going.
No, that ain't gonna work. Sorry. And the other ones are your budget workshops on the 3rd and the 4th
Yes, sir.
of August. If y'all just mention it to the public, I know you're gonna advertise and all that stuff, but if people that are watching on the video, when it's available, at least those folks will know.
Thank you, Chairman.
Commissioner Stapleton.
We just asked Mr. Bo when he's gonna be going on vacation, that's when we discussed.
That's when we scheduled.
Sounds that way,
But just for the public,
Well, you couldn't make that up, that he's gonna be out of town, he's the one that's been asking for a workshop.
he actually called me and told me that, and I said, you gotta be kidding me.
Unbelievable.
But the budget workshops will be Wednesday, August the 3rd, and Thursday, August the 4th at 9 a.m. at the judicial annex and workshop for minimum wage, solid waste, and economic development will be Wednesday, June 15th at 9 a.m. at the judicial annex. Any other public comment?
This is not the building while it goes, but I just shoot Luke a quick text, but just want to let you know that last weekend we had 150 riders out at Little Britches Arena. I was out there early, and there's people already everywhere. So, but anyway, just let you know that. I'm not sure how much fuel they bought, but I'm sure it cost them a lot of money to get here and back. So appreciate their investment. This weekend we've got our district Babe Ruth tournament. We've got 38 teams coming in from Wakulla, Dixie County, and Lake City, and other counties. But we'll start 9 o'clock on Thursday, go through Sunday. So get a chance to go watch a little baseball. Come join us. And Mr. Lamb will be there all weekend long, we hope.
I will.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Yes, sir.
Public comment?
Yes, sir.
Vince Smith. I live south of Live Oak, out of Brim Pond.
You have an address?
Can you hear me?
My address,
I'm sorry.
your address, please.
132nd Terrace, 9194.
Okay.
This is my personal comment and a personal observation. I have here a copy signed by all the board members of your letter to the Water Management District. Before I go there, I want to thank you for what you all did do on restraint of the gambling and gaming. That was very good for this community. This letter, to my reading it, is about as insulting and as inviting of a slapback lawsuit for the parties that you talked about as I can imagine. I don't understand why you would do this. I don't understand why you would become a party to this. If there's real issues, there are attorneys and lawyers to deal with them, but we want to go the political route with this. This letter, I assure you, will get to the governor, and it has all your names on it. A few years back, Live Oak had a flood problem. Y'all might remember that. There was at least one death associated with that, and it was in a low-income neighborhood. We now are raising the stakes of that happening again. I can assure you that water runs downhill. And the areas that I understand are being addressed here are all elevated above the city. City is a basin. It is a bowl. The bowl fills up from the bottom. That's what I'm looking at. I was downtown a couple days ago. We had rain the other evening. Pretty hard rain. And one of the businesses I walked in, the carpet was wet on the door. I said, "What's happening?" And they said, "Well, the rain was so hard, we had a flood down here, and the water was," this is downtown, on 90, near 129, and the water was knee deep. That little rain, water's knee deep? Yeah. And the city had been through here since the flood, and had put in new piping and whatever else. And I turned around and I looked behind me, and there's a storm drain 15 feet to the right, and there's a storm drain almost 12 foot to the left, and it couldn't handle the water. I, Mr. Harris, do not believe the infrastructure of this city is ready to handle what may be coming down on it. And I think you're talking about low-income neighborhoods, again, being flooded if this is not done right. And I thank God for the Water Management District. I thank God there's some people out there that have some integrity to them to say, no, we're not going to have that happen again. We're going to question this, we're going to find out, we're going to have accountability and commitments. Really. That's what I have to say.
Well,
I'm not proud of y'all.
well, you know, that's your opinion, but this is not just addressing the city of Live Oak. This is addressing a water management district. It is more than just Live Oak. It's several counties.
So you're pissing off on Live Oak?
No, it's not that. What they're after here is you're creating twice as much retention for our area that you are any other area in the state. And so that's what we're addressing.
I'm not an engineer, but I sure hope after this letter you've got a lot of strong facts and documentation. Because I can sure see it coming back.
I believe we do. But I appreciate
I wish
you
y'all
coming.
hadn't done this. I wish you could have had a workshop, negotiated, talked to some people.
We
Because let's go fly in
did,
their face.
sir, we did attend several of their board meetings, and we have addressed them, and that's why the letter was written.
Well, we're gonna all reap the consequences.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman, Commissioners, I just want to take an opportunity real quick to publicly recognize a couple of our employees out of fire rescue. Last week we had a medical emergency here in the county. The guys went out and picked a patient up. He was doing some yard work in his yard, had an issue, and they took him to the hospital. Lieutenant Doyle and David Custer, firefighter N.T. Custer, when they got done with the call, returned to this gentleman's house and finished his yard for him, you know, mowed it, weeded it, trimmed some shrubs and everything else, because he was in a way that he wasn't going to be able to finish it. So I just wanted to take the time to publicly recognize those two guys for the outstanding effort that they did, and you know, trying to give the kind of service to the community that we strive to do above and beyond what our normal duties are. So I appreciate the time to come to be able to do that.
Thank you. Appreciate you too.
Absolutely.
Anyone else wishing to speak under public comment?
Moses Klepper, 14581 102nd Path, Live Oak. First, I got a few things here. Sorry, I know we're running late. Mr. Prevent may be the best one to answer this, or maybe somebody else can. This ordinance is just passed tonight. There's some nonprofits that host games, different, say bingo, some of them poker, different kind of games. Does this ordinance in any way affect those games that they've been hosting throughout the years?
Yeah, yes, sir, it does. What it makes them do is make sure that they call the sheriff, report that the incident, the times that they are going to be able to do funding will be limited to twice a year. It's 6 hours per event, and they have to call the sheriff, give them notice, let the sheriff know, you know, when it's going to be, who's going to be in charge, and, you know, go from there. That would be the only effect on those entities.
Well, when it was weekly, some of them I'm aware of are weekly events. So those are shut down to twice a year?
Well, depends on what the entity is, as nonprofit and.
Nonprofit?
Okay. Or charitable, or church-related, religious-related. Yes, sir.
Was that intentionally verbiage included in this? I mean, because these are not machines. They've been legal up to this point, and there's been no protest that I know from the public. I mean, who?
Typically, as a private citizen, you can own one of these machines, but whenever you have involved a third party is when it becomes an illegal event. There's an exception in our ordinance and in the state statute and we follow the state statute with that, you know, for the.
Sorry, we may be on different notes here. I'm not speaking of machines. I'm speaking of like bingo, or if they host a poker game.
Yes, sir.
With no rate, legal activity that you and I could have.
If they're outside of the city limits, they would be affected.
what, may I ask, is the purpose of excluding these legal games?
They don't become legal until we say that they're legal. Otherwise, they're illegal.
They've been legal, they're legal in the state of Florida, and they were legal in the county of Suwannee
What
until
you're-
tonight.
You're getting past, did you read the section?
I have not.
Under the exceptions?
No,
You're
well, you're
getting-
saying 2 times, when they're weekly held meeting, or weekly held games,
Okay.
and you're restricting them to semi-annual. I haven't read it.
Okay. I'll read it to you.
You don't have to.
Okay.
You're answering my question. It is restricted, and I'm wondering why that restriction was put in place. I'm not aware, and all of y'all are aware of a lot more than I am on all this, but I'm not aware of any public outrage to those legal activities. And I don't know why they've become made illegal tonight. I just don't see it.
Are you talking, can I ask a question? Are you
Yes.
talking about like bingo at like Elks Lodge or?
Poker or any other type of source that they have for activities. It provides a little revenue, very minor amount of revenue, probably expenses only, for the host site, and they are nonprofits.
Okay, you're addressing something a little different. What we're talking about here is this is an ordinance directed at simulated gambling devices.
Right, and I've specified that when I opened up.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that's a
So-
different thing.
So can I ask you, maybe rephrase my same
Okay.
question? This new ordinance, does it affect, we're across the street from the Elks Lodge, does it affect the Elks Lodge, does it prevent the Elks Lodge from hosting a bingo game or a poker game?
It would not be applicable to the Elks Lodge because they are located within the city limits. However, if the Elks Lodge happened to be located out there at the country club, the answer would be no.
No,
No, it would not affect.
okay, but now.
You're talking about the Elks Lodge, and it's within the city limits of Live Oak.
So-
Our ordinance doesn't have anything to do with anything inside the city limits. We only control what's outside the city limits.
All right, so Live Oak, LOL, that bar out there on one of them roads, y'all know better than me. Anyway, some of the bars around here hosted poker games in the county, legal poker games. Is that affecting? And they don't take a rate.
As long as these are not doing games on electronic
That's right.
poker games.
They use cards and they
Okay,
use chips.
Electronic poker games is what we're controlling.
So this ordinance is not affecting those other games.
Those are
Thank you.
all controlled by,
That was easy. Thank you. The other thing.
it's easy.
Well, when he answered my question, it was really,
Answered too many questions. Okay.
This well, since I'm on a little bit of silliness, I'm not gonna let y'all off on this, the camouflage towers. I hope that y'all will take that seriously, because if not, just Google up some of these, communities that haven't taken it seriously and look at that pollution, It's an opportunity now. Y'all let 2 that I know of come in, just do the guy wire tires. But we can do, and there's some that, I was looking some during the, that they do water towers and the cell towers that look like water towers. They actually enhance the community instead of, they got these old train station looking water towers sitting up out there. That they're actually not water towers, they're cell towers. So I'm pleading with y'all to readdress y'all's policies on cell towers and not just let everything come in here, So, all right. The other thing, y'all confuse me, and I'm not up here to criticize you guys. Constructive criticism, once again. Maybe I don't say it just right, but y'all confuse me a little bit on this pole barn situation. I hear you got it for 93. I'm not confident we got the best deal. I don't know. I'm actually in the market for a metal building myself, and the people I've dealt with, numerous companies, They love it when the specs aren't, they're random, and they're able to submit theirs, because there's no longer apples to apples. And in my own little search, which is about half of the price of what y'all looking for, I mean, there's been variations of, $20,000, $30,000, and because, oh no, that's not included, that'd be extra here. This, doors, I got doors and windows in mine and stuff, but still, I don't know why we're not setting up, I know y'all done voted on it, but I don't know why we're not setting up, presenting them with a set of specs, and option 1, 2, and 3, boom, 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 and there's apples and apples, they can't do that cheap stuff on us, and we are getting the best value. So that's enough on that. Y'all do what you want with that. Let's see. Oh yeah, over there by the rodeo, I hate paying $12.5 an acre. All right, that's $400,000.
I'm not.
You're not.
I'm not excited either.
Oh, I know y'all not. I know you're not. One of the thoughts run through my head, and I understand that lady that owns the rodeo. She's actually a good citizen of this county and seems pretty generous. I've heard through multiple sources, but she may not be, when it comes time for us to purchase that piece of property, she may not be in control of that piece of property. Y'all paying $12.5 an acre, which is, y'all have already y'all aware of that, but whoever owns that piece of property, when it comes time to purchase that other piece, they can know we need it. All right, they know we need it now, because if we buy this 32 acres, we're buying it. It's public awareness, so they can have us tight there too, and we're thinking paying 3 times the land value for this 12.5 next door for the 32 as much, but they can hold us up for more than that,
Well, that arena is a different little deal. That's a stock-owned deal by some private citizens that started that thing years and years ago. And I've had some discussions with some of them, and I don't feel like that's going to be the case.
Again, though, the situation could change.
Could?
And I don't want to burn that group. I thought it was a lady. That shows my ignorance, but I don't want to burn that group. Sound like they're a good group. But what's wrong with taking this $400,000 and looking elsewhere? Who says we have to have that 32 acres right there?
We don't.
That's my point. And this is actually the growth that I'd like to see it happen. Now, it sounds like something that would benefit this county, but not paying $12,000, $12.5 an acre. But I've heard recently land going for over 16,000 acres. So, it's blowing me away. The other thing is it. I'll let y'all go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moses. I probably be quick.
That's all right. Come on.
I'm Maurice Perkins, 505 Fayette Avenue here in Live Florida. So say thank you to the board with the community member block grants. I have opportunity to work on Hamilton County every year with those little block grants. And those block grants, they are beneficial to your constituents. They'll bring them to dilapidated houses, make them better. Your tax rolls grow from it. And you have all businesses grow from it also. Your cemetery guys benefit from it. Your building supplies, plumbing supplies, all benefit from it. And your constituents get a better house and improvement on that property. So I say thank you for doing that. I did have the pleasure of doing 3 of the new homes when they first did the first grant here in Live with Park. But there are other that also do it well with Park. There's In Touch, Meridian group also do them over in Gainesville. So I travel around doing different ones. But thank you for doing that. Yeah, that's improving the quality of homes here in Suwannee County. So I ask you to continue to do so. Hampton County do it every year. For the last 10 years or better, I've been doing homes over in Hampton County and building homes, repairing, and all those things over here. So I just say hats off to you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Name and address, please.
Good evening, Tim Williams. I live at 3196 104th Street, out in Wilmer, District 4. I just want to say that I'm very pleased to hear that you guys are having communication with the city of Live Oak regarding utilities. That growth corridor is a tremendous opportunity. I know that we've been held back by the current Water Management District's rule interpretation. And I know that the Water Management Board is gonna consider changing those rules, as well they should, but that doesn't happen until October. There's a critical need now, today, and you guys sending that letter was the right thing to do. I just want to encourage you guys, as you meet with the city and look at that corridor and consider utilities, please get grant funding, do all you can do to make that happen now, because things are critical, timing is everything, and we're certainly in the late stages of a cycle, is my personal opinion. So we need to do all we can, as fast as we can. But I also want to plant this seed. I hope that you guys will consider a regional stormwater utility. There are assets out in that area that could take all the water that falls on all of that land, and it would not come into the city of Live Oak. I'm not a hydrologist, I'm not an engineer, but I have eyes and ears, and I've been at these meetings, and I've been out there on some of that property. There's a lot of opportunity without an adverse impact, so please consider, if the city would consider, a regional stormwater utility. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? With that being, let's see, item 22, administrators' comments.
Mr. Chairman, I've got about 6 things here.
No, you're not. I'll call Morris up here for you.
No, sir.
You won't.
I have nothing else, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Fleming.
It's been a little lengthy meeting, but we have to take that kind of business and take the work things off, but, I think we had a very successful meeting tonight, and I had quite a few stitching here tonight, but I guess they got a little tired, hungry, they left.
Me too.
I know the commissioner lad, he's been on, he said, motion approved, and I see that look like that. But I want to congratulate all the commissioners for, being on the same page tonight. Continue to try to make our county and our community which we live in. But also want to mention how, we have a new business in town, I think it started in February. It's a business that none of us, when the secretary called me yesterday, she said, Mr. Fleming, Mr. Allen want to meet with you, he want to have a visit with you. And I said, who? Now get this, she's talking about a funeral home director. I don't know how to tell you at all. And he's the big guy that just walked out. I'm trying to catch him. I didn't want to have a date with him, no. I wouldn't know anything about it, but I remember him from a kid. He's about 6'9". He's much of a man. He wanted to be chairman tonight. He's talking about something, but very nice young man. He has a business. He's a young man. Started a business in City Live Oak, Suwannee County, and surrounding counties. But he got up and walked out. I guess he got hungry. I don't think he eat too much. But he talk about like me. I don't eat.
Just be tired.
Well, I could use a snack, Mr. Fleming.
But anyway, I'm glad to be here tonight. This is the first meeting in this month. And I just happen to have 9 more days. I'll be 65 years old. I'm blessed with 65 years. I'm grateful and I'm thankful. And you know what, that leaning tree. But we have a good group of guys, a very good guys that Brantford County Administrator does a great job. And I stand to the audience, I see former commissioners, I see good people that I've talked to over the course of time. And I appreciate every one of you for being here tonight. Just can't say thank you enough. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Stapleton.
Yeah, just appreciate everyone's good meeting tonight. Like, met in the middle on a lot of things. Probably the closest thing to my heart this evening is just yesterday was D-Day, and just the sacrifice that it takes that so many have made, give us the opportunity to be right here where we're at.
Amen.
Just to me, that's what it's about. Just seeing those crosses in Live Oak this year, and just that sacrifice, folks. That's what this country is built on, and just grateful and thankful.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Lane.
Yeah, tell Mr. Fleming happy birthday.
Thank you.
I don't know that I'll see you for 9 days, you said?
About 9 days.
9 days, so happy early birthday.
Thank you.
Hope you have many more.
Thank you, sir.
I agree with what Commissioner Stapleton said, D-Day and the sacrifices that those folks and all those folks and their families made, for this country. That ain't humbling. I don't know what is. But, good meeting. I'm feeling a little on the weather, ready to go home, so I'm gonna keep it short.
You done?
I'm done.
Well, I'll make it quick too. I do appreciate all the board members working together and us having these good discussions, because these good discussions are good things for our community. That's what we're here to do. I appreciate every one of you guys for that. I do want to mention, summertime, I'm starting to see a lot of social media posts of our ball fields, our springs and things like that. So hats off to Mr. Scott and his group out there. They're doing a great job. Things are beautiful. And again, I had some issues in my district with some people getting flooded, the way the roads were, some dirt roads, things like that. And our crews went out there and took care of that issue. And I just want to say thank you to them. They make us look good, guys. They go out there and they do things and they fix problems that we can't. So hats off to all of our employees. So.
I have one question that I was going to ask Commissioner Land. How's it looking on 250?
It's looking a lot better.
I haven't been out there, so I was asking. I know they've been out there working.
It's looking a lot better.
Yeah, they all been out there working.
It's looking a lot better.
It looks good. I'd be out there every day.
Yeah, looking a lot better. I appreciate what we get done out there. I know the people that travel that road every day, multiple times, are happy to see those groups getting eliminated. Hey, Mr. Chairman, I will, I don't know where Mr. Scott went. There he is. What he mentioned about the district, the little all-star my son plays on the AAU, and Mr. Scott and his staff, all of our staff does a good job, but those are some really nice facilities we got out there. We played a warm-up tournament all weekend over in Lake City, and they got some nice facilities, but I'm gonna put ours up against theirs any day, on the condition of the fields and the buildings. And
That splash pad, I've heard so much.
the splash pad and the rotary, Mr. Stapleton, that was probably near and dear to his heart.
Yeah.
And my little boy's actually playing in it, and I sent Commissioner Stapleton a video of that here a couple weeks ago saying, hey, I don't know about everybody else, but this little kid loves it.
He did
But at any rate, that's a nice complex we got out there, and we only got nothing else to do. Starting Thursday, these little boys, I think there's, I don't know how many teams, 10 teams? 38 teams will be in Live Oak. Hey, these little boys get after it now. This ain't, these little boys play hard and they look good too, so anyway, come out and support them. That's it, I'm sorry.
Thought you was gonna take.
I did, but he started talking about baseball.
I'm done, yes, sir, I'm done. Thank you.
I just want to thank all of you for giving me the opportunity to get that piece of property down there, even though I know it was a little pricey. I think that's going to be a good thing for that Indian County. I want to thank Miss Annette and Miss Luana Gaylord for giving up half their commission to make that happen. That was part of being able to get it. So I just want to thank everybody involved. Appreciate you commissioners going along with it. Mr. Norris, I'm gonna give Mr. Norris a few minutes here. Just a few minutes. Come on, y'all.
He's been busy, guys.
Did I hear some boots?
I tried to wait.
What, 3?
Okay, 3 minutes, go.
No. You give Moses like an hour. And I do have a question though, Mr. Attorney. Real quick, I do appreciate the time, and like Mr. Tim says, a lot of opportunity out there, and you guys all know it, you're all involved in it. We're there. We just gotta do it the right way, the smart way, and a lot of great suggestions over there, and we're trying to do that by meeting with the city, and we gotta be on the same team, so. But I did wanna mention, Mr. Fleming, happy birthday, cause every time you come by and I'm mowing grass in the ditch, you just blow the horn and wave. You never stop and ask to help pick up the garbage and mow the grass. He just sticks his hand out the window as I'm out there mowing. Happy birthday. Thank you. So, but anyway, as you know, we got a grant through Enterprise Florida a while back, and it was to go into Florida Trend.
And I just wanted to mention to you, of course, they don't send us 1,000 copies for the community or anything like that, but this Florida Trend really talked about rural America, and it focused on rural communities. And of course, our rural region here, our NFEDP region, got a lot of good press time, and just one of the things that they did when they're talking in general is they got the Suwannee County Courthouse. Now, this is rural America all over the state of Florida, you know, 34 counties, not just here, but our courthouse is the center of one of those articles. And then we have our own page, which is, you guys can see it back here, but it's our campaign of discovering Suwannee County. And it talks all about available properties and our catalyst site and things that we're doing here in the community. So word is getting out, but this was a grant we received through Enterprise Florida. So this thing that'll go out to thousands of people, you know, was free of charge to us. So, and they did, as a nice little gesture at the bottom of the page, they have in there that Suwannee County was the recipient of FEDC's 2021 Deal of the Year. And that was our recognition with, you know, all the hard work that all you guys did with bringing vendor holes to town. So just want to say that, you know, we're out there and promoting, and thank you guys for what you do. And my grandson was at Splash Pad too.
I forgot to say, he owns a mortuary service, funeral. You know Marcus?
Yes, absolutely.
I didn't tell, I told him that he was
Yes.
talking to his officer, but that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. No, he's got a great.
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you, sir.
And with that, I'll just need a motion to dismiss.
Motion to dismiss.
Motion by Commissioner Clement. Second by Commissioner Staple. All in favor, aye?
Aye.